dollar. Dirt and money, no soul. Had to go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack of flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar. Let me watch out for my partners. Keep my money long, get my team strong. Let me run away from my problems.
Yo, what's good, original crew? It's your boy DJ New Kid, your girl.
Sierra Nicole.
Back on the channel with more Mr. Ballen. Yo, but this time, this one comes from one of the crew members.
Yes. Oh yeah. Ananda Lee, and I'm pronouncing it right, and I hope it's spelled right too. But yeah. Ananda Lee.
All right. So
thank you for this request.
The request is for this one is his family never saw it coming. I don't think we haven't done this one before. So hey, if this is a good one, shout outs to you. If this is a bad one, again, a blank goes to you. So hey, this is on you. This is all on you. But hey, always, man, make sure y'all start spamming us up in the comments.
Please do.
And if we start doing a video that you recommend, get a shout out.
Yeah, most definitely.
Hey, we miss doing some shout outs around here.
I actually do.
I ain't finna be shouting out all the time.
But I actually do miss it every blue moon.
Yeah.
You know?
And y'all help us, we help y'all, man.
Most definitely.
Look out, you know what I'm saying? Be a crew. But with that being said, man, make sure y'all check out the links in the description box.
Down below.
You already know where to go, man. You want the first part, you gotta do it, check out down below. Also, if you enjoyed today's video, always
lock it in with a thumbs up.
For sure. But let's get into it. Let's check it out. Let's see what Mr. Ballen's talking about today, man. Let's go.
Today's story covers one of the strangest and most hotly debated mysteries on the internet. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload 3 or 4 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, please offer to help the like button pack up all their things so they can move, but only use old and weak tape so the bottom of the moving boxes fall out as soon as anyone tries to lift them. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's story. In mid-August 2013, Mike and Karen Laspisa helped their beloved only child, 19-year-old Bryce Laspisa, get all of his things.
Hold on. I gotta get my paperwork in. So, you know what I'm saying? I gotta get the paperwork.
Okay, baby, come on.
In mid-August 2013, Mike and Karen Laspisa helped their beloved only child, 19-year-old Bryce Laspisa, get all of his things packed up and into the family car. Bryce had just spent the summer with his parents in their home in Laguna Niguel, California, which is one of the nicest places to live in the entire country. But now that the summer was coming to an end, it was time for Bryce to head back to Sierra College in Rocklin, California, where he was set to start his sophomore year. Once all of his things were packed inside the trunk of the car, all 3 of them hopped inside and then made the 7-hour drive north to his campus. Once his parents had moved him into his apartment, they gave him a hug and a kiss and wished him luck, and then they left. On their ride back home, Mike and Karen talked about how well their son seemed to be doing. He loved his school, he loved the program he was in graphic design, he was a very gifted artist, he had lots of friends, he had a wonderful girlfriend. It just seemed like he was living his best life and he was on the path to success. So nothing could prepare them for what their son did 2 weeks later. Just a couple of days after getting dropped off at school, Bryce's very close friend and roommate, Sean, and Bryce's girlfriend, Kim, noticed Bryce was acting erratically. Specifically, he was drinking a ton of hard alcohol. Now, Bryce was no saint. He liked to drink and party like many other kids his age did, but the amount of alcohol he was consuming was concerning. Also, Bryce began experimenting with a drug called Vyvanse, which is a very powerful stimulant that's normally used to treat attention deficit disorder. Now, Bryce didn't have attention deficit disorder. He was taking it in order to stay up late at night and play video games. But between the heavy drinking and the drug use, it seemed like Bryce's personality was starting to change. He was becoming anxious and skittish and kind of paranoid. And so finally, Sean and Kim confronted him about his substance abuse and asked him, what's going on? What's causing you to act this way? And Bryce would say, nothing, guys, I'm fine. I'm just, drinking and doing whatever I want to do. It's not a big deal. But Sean and Kim, they weren't buying it. They were
I say this, like, if you just told me straight up that part, I'm like, he's being kind of like a typical college student. School just started back. That's when a lot of people start drinking heavy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But popping the pills right now, it's a little.
And also pills that are not prescribed to you. Where are you getting it from?
Well, the reason why I say that, I know a lot of people who did that back in college to help them stay up for papers.
But like what, Adderall and stuff like that?
Yeah, even I'd have heard of that drug before, but it's like Mr. Ballen said, to help them stay up at night.
Yeah,
not to play video games, but to study and write papers and stuff.
Yeah,
so
most definitely.
if you just told me some of that, like I'm just like, he's been a typical college student. I know a lot. Like, to be real, it's been plenty of times where I done asked my roommates for medication. Mm-hmm. In college, I'm like, hey, I know you got this. Like, one of my roommates, his girl, she had some Xanax, though. She had prescription Xanax. And our other roommate used to ask for it. And I knew, but he, you know.
Yeah,
but
I would never take it.
He was trying to get to his frat brothers and stuff. But, you know what I'm saying? That's college lifestyle. Yeah. And he used to buy them off of $20 a pop. And, you know what I'm saying? I ain't snitching on nobody. You know what I'm saying? No names, no face, no case.
Okay.
Drinking and doing whatever I want to do, it's not a big deal. But Sean and Kim, they weren't buying it. They were convinced that something bad had happened to Bryce, and the way he was coping with it was by drinking really heavily and taking this drug. On August 28th, so about 2 weeks after Bryce has been dropped back off at school by his parents, Bryce and his roommate Sean were alone in their apartment together. And at some point, as they're sitting there just kind of minding their own business, Bryce says to Sean, hey, I want to give you something. And he takes his diamond earrings out and he gives them to Sean. And Sean's looking at these earrings and he's like, didn't your mom give these to you? Aren't these important to you? These are expensive. And Bryce just says, no, I want you to have them. And so Sean is looking at these earrings, looking back at Bryce, wondering what's going on here. And then before he can even refuse the gift, Bryce is grabbing his Xbox and putting it on the table and telling Sean, I want you to have this too. Take my Xbox. And so Sean is like, I can't accept these two things. These are expensive. These are valuable to you. What's going on here? But Bryce would just say, look, man, I want you to have these things. You're important to me and I want to give these to you. And so as Sean is sitting there wondering how to handle this very strange offering, he watched Bryce pull his phone out and begin really aggressively texting somebody. And then after a while, Bryce looks up from his phone and he tells Sean, hey, just so you know, I broke up with Kim. At this point, Sean knows, okay, something is definitely wrong here. There's no reason Bryce would break up with Kim. They were such a loving couple. They doted on each other. They were very close. They had just seen each other earlier in the day. Nothing seemed to be wrong. And so now Bryce is text breaking up with her. It didn't make any sense. Plus, Bryce is now trying to give him all these valuable things. It just wasn't really adding up. And so Sean decided he needed to get in touch with Bryce's parents because clearly someone needed to intervene. And so Sean waited until Bryce left. Bryce actually left to go talk to Kim. And at that point, Sean got his phone out and he looked up Bryce's parents and he called them. Bryce's mother, Karen, she picks up the phone and Sean explains that, your son, he's acting strangely. He's abusing drugs and alcohol, and I wouldn't be doing this unless I thought there was a problem. Like, I'm not trying to get him in trouble. I want you to reach out to him and see what's going on because I think there's a problem. And so Karen...
That's a W roommate, bro.
Most definitely.
W roommate. And I ain't gonna lie, no lie. That's one thing I never did in college, but something is good to do is
exchange your parents
and relatives information and actually introduce your I actually introduced my roommates to my because I'm laying with we all in not laying with but we living in the house together. Y'all, I do need y'all to know who I'm in, who environment I'm in, just in case you never know what might happen. But actually exchanging numbers, I never thought about doing that, but that's just smart. Anybody who's in college or going to college in the future, something smart to do. Because I never thought about doing it.
I want you to reach out to him and see what's going on because I think there's a problem. And so Karen was alarmed by this. She had no idea any of this was going on. And she says, okay, I'll reach out to my son. Thank you for telling me. And so they hang up. And before Karen can even call Bryce is calling her. And so Karen answers the phone, but it's not Bryce. It's Kim, his now ex-girlfriend. And she says to Karen, hey, I'm sorry to just call you like this, but your son, he just showed up at my apartment and he's acting so strangely that I actually took his keys. I don't want him to drive. There's something wrong with him. It's hard to describe, but he just seems totally off. And so now Karen's really concerned because just seconds ago, Sean has told her basically the same thing. And so Karen asks Kim, will you please put my son on the phone? Bryce picks up the phone and he says, hey mom, and he sounds totally normal. And she asks him, what's going on? I keep hearing that you're acting strangely and, what are you doing over at Kim's apartment? What's going on here? And Bryce would tell his mom that, look, mom, I just broke up with Kim. It's a very messy breakup. That's why she's calling you. She's upset. And, that's why I'm over here. We're talking about it. And look, at this point, I just really want to go home. I want to go back to my apartment, but she has my keys. Can you please tell her to give me my car keys back so I can leave? But Karen wasn't really buying it. She knew her son really well, and it just seemed totally strange that two of his very close friends in his inner circle would say the same thing, independent of one another. And so she says, you know what, Bryce, look, I want you to just stay there, and I'm going to fly out there first thing tomorrow morning, and I'm going to just see what's going on out there. And at this, Bryce immediately says, no, Mom, I have a lot to talk to you about, and until I talk to you about it, I don't want you coming out here. And so Karen's like, what do you mean you have a lot to talk to me about? What is it that you have to talk to me about? I don't really understand. But Bryce refused to elaborate over the phone, which Karen thought was very odd because Bryce was remarkably forthcoming with his parents. They had a very open relationship. They were very honest with each other. So for him to not even give a hint at whatever it was that was on his mind that in some way had to do with what was going on here, it just seemed very odd and unnecessarily cryptic. And so Karen gave up trying to get more information out of her son, and instead she put her husband on the phone. And he asked Bryce, hey, what's going on here? Are you okay? Your mom tells me there's some problem. Like, what's going on here? And Bryce again just reiterates, look, Dad, I just broke up with my girlfriend. That's all that's going on here. There's no need to be concerned. I just need one of you to tell Kim to give me my keys back so I can go back to my apartment. That's all I need right now. And so Mike felt convinced that his son was totally fine, even though it did seem odd that two of his friends had said he was acting erratically. But
Mike gonna automatically say, yeah, because he's secondhand hearing.
Yeah, because he don't fully know what's going on.
Nobody
really
called
know.
And talked to him. They talked to Karen.
Then,
to be honest, that woman's intuition or mother's intuition kicks in, and she automatically knows something's wrong with my son.
Yeah, like
Like, there's no way Sean called me, then turn around. Now, Kim was calling.
Provided me this information as well.
I got the call from Sean before I got the call from Kim, so I know it's not about a breakup.
Yeah.
I know it's deeper than that, and his excuse is that it's a breakup.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I forgot how far he was.
I know it was a 7-hour drive.
It was a 7-hour drive, so that's quite a distance.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna hop in my car and go.
Yeah.
And then he's like, Mom, don't come here until I call you and talk to you about it. No, I'll be there.
I'll fly out.
Right now. I'm finna come right now, and you can talk to me when I get there. Like, hell no.
Mike's perspective, Bryce seemed just fine. And so he said as much to Karen and thought, let's just get Kim to give him his keys back and he can go back to his apartment and we can talk to him later about whatever it is that's going on. And so reluctantly, Karen gets back on the phone and she asks to speak with Kim. And she says, hey, Kim, would you mind giving our son his keys back? He'd like to leave. And so Kim says, okay, I'll give him his keys. And then they hung up. And then Kim got the keys out. She gave them to Bryce and Bryce left. At about 11:30 p.m. that night, Bryce was in his car. He was getting ready to leave when his mom called him back and said, okay, look, I want you to go home, but as soon as you get there, just give me a call so I know you're safe. And Bryce said, no problem, I'll give you a call. About an hour and a half later at 1 a.m., Bryce called his mom back to let her know that he was home safe at his apartment, and Karen and Mike are totally relieved, and they tell their son, okay, we'll talk to you tomorrow morning. 10 hours later at 11 a.m. on August 29th, Karen received an automated phone call from her car insurance company letting her know that roadside assistance had been used on their 2003 Toyota Highlander car. That was Bryce's car. And so Karen's totally confused because the last she spoke to her son, he was at his apartment. He was home safe. He did not have any car problems. And so she's thinking, did he get up early this morning and get into an accident and call roadside assistance? Or maybe last night he got into car problems and just didn't tell her about it, but they were minor. And so she calls Bryce, but Bryce doesn't pick up. And so she dials his roommate, Sean. Sean does answer the phone, and she says, hey, would you mind putting Bryce on the line? But Sean says, Bryce isn't here, and he didn't come home last night. Considering the general weirdness around their son's recent behavior, this really shocked Karen and Mike. At first, they thought, we need to call the police because something horrible has happened. But then they thought, well, wait a minute, let's go into his bank statements because he has a credit card that we gave him, and let's see if there's any recent purchases that will allow us to track where he is. And so they pull up his bank statements, and his most recent charge was only a few hours earlier, and it was at a car repair shop in Buttonwillow, California, which is this small desert town right off off of the I-5 highway, located about halfway between his school campus and their hometown in Laguna Niguel. And so Karen and Mike assume their son last night must not have gone to his apartment, but instead just kept on driving south in an attempt to drive all the way back home to his hometown of Laguna Niguel. I mean, after all, he...
Sorry, y'all. Don't say a word.
and their hometown in Laguna Niguel. And so Karen and Mike assume their son last night must not have gone to his apartment, but instead just kept on driving south in an attempt to drive all the way back home to his hometown of Laguna Niguel. I mean, after all, he did tell his mom he had a lot to talk about and he didn't want to talk about it on the phone. And so they assumed he must be driving here to talk about whatever it was in person. And perhaps he ran into some car problems in Buttonwillow, California. That's why he pulled over. That's why there's this charge at this auto repair shop. And so Karen calls the auto repair shop in Buttonwillow, and a man who worked there named Christian answered the phone. And so Karen asked him, have you seen my son? He's got red hair. He's got a tattoo on his arm. He's driving a 2003 Toyota Highlander. And Christian says, oh, yeah, we saw him a couple of hours ago. We responded to his roadside assistance call. He ran out of gas on the I-5 highway. He pulled into a rest stop, and we drove to that rest stop, and we gave him gas. And so Karen asked Christian, did my son indicate where he was going next? And Christian said, no, he didn't. We just gave him the gas and then we left. But if you'd like, I'd be more than happy to just drive over to the rest stop. It's only about 15 minutes away and see if he's still there. It's unlikely because it's been a couple of hours, but maybe. And Karen and Mike are like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Would you do that? That would be great. And so Christian hops in his car and he drives the 15 minutes over to this rest stop. And he's not really expecting to see Bryce in this parking lot. It had been almost 3 hours. But he pulls into the lot and there is the 2003 Toyota Highlander with Bryce sitting inside of it. He's just sitting behind the wheel staring out into nothingness. And so Christian walks up to the driver's side and he looks down to get Bryce's attention, and Bryce kind of snaps out of it and looks up and he's surprised to see Christian again. He rolls the window down and Christian says to him, hey, I just talked to your parents. They're really concerned about you. You got to talk to them. And so Christian actually pulls out his phone and he calls Karen and says, hey, he is still here. Here he is. And he hands the phone to Bryce. And as soon as Bryce puts the phone to his ear and he says hello, Karen's like, what are you doing? What are you doing just sitting in this rest stop in the middle of Buttonwillow, California? We're so worried about you. And Bryce didn't really have an answer. He just kept telling his mom, I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting here. And so finally his mom stops trying to get information from him and just says, look, please just fill your car up with gas and come straight home, please. And Bryce says, okay, yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll do that right now. And so Bryce hands the phone back to Christian. Christian pulls it up to his ear and he says, hey, Karen, it looks like he's leaving now, so I'm going to take off. Karen thanks him and they hang up.
You got to show some effort to meet him halfway. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to, my thing is, go to him. Because obviously, he ain't in the right mindset to be coming or even on the road driving. Like, he's not, deep down, like, you know what I'm saying?
But even, what you said, meet them halfway, what you feel like they
I said meet them halfway. I'm not talking about, like, literally halfway, but I'm just saying meet them halfway with something. Say, hey, we're coming to you.
Oh, okay.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
so regardless, he gonna still be driving. So
no.
Yeah,
I'm saying,
okay.
like, meet them halfway. Like, even when she was on the phone with him at Kim's apartment, say, hey, no, we're coming.
But this is, I guess, the thing of, like, you don't want to, like, I guess she want to, like, panic and, like, freak out and blow it out, like, out of proportion and it be, but at the same time, for,
when multiple people tell you it looks like something,
definitely. Like,
it's something.
Yeah, but again, I'm flying out in the morning, like.
But the thing
but
is,
he convinced the dad that everything was okay.
And then the dad,
okay.
being a dad and being a guy,
and then the fact that he called and was like, "Hey, I'm home," like. He's from my understanding, he's always been open with him. So it's just kind of like, why would he lie now?
Let me talk to Sean. Let me talk to Sean.
Yeah, but
Sean, is he? You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? And he could have been. He would have been like, wait, Sean. No, Sean had called me earlier. I just want to talk to Sean real quick.
Or you could have just called. Yeah, because you already had his number because he called you earlier. But I mean, I guess sometimes you don't think everything through or. After the fact, you wish, whatever, but yeah.
Yeah, facts.
his ear and he says, "Hey, Karen, it looks like he's leaving now, so I'm going to take off." Karen thanks him and they hang up. Christian goes back into his car. He leaves the lot, and as he's driving, he looks over at Bryce, and it didn't really look like Bryce was getting ready to leave. It looked like he had just gone back to sitting and blankly staring out of his car. But Christian figured, you know what? He just talked to his mom. He said he was going to go home. I'm sure that's what he's going to do. The drive from Buttonwillow, California, south to Laguna Niguel, California, where Bryce's parents were, was about a 3-hour trip. And so the Los Pisas were expecting their son to arrive around 3 p.m. By 3:30 p.m., when he still hadn't shown up and he still hadn't called, Karen began calling her son, but he wasn't answering the phone. And as much as Karen and Mike wanted to believe their son had just gotten stuck in traffic or something like that, they knew deep down something was wrong. Something was off about his behavior. They just didn't understand what it was. For the next several hours, they continuously tried calling their son, and he never answered the phone. And so finally, by 6 p.m. that night, when he still hadn't shown up and they still couldn't get in touch with him, they called the police and they filed an official missing person report. The police began their search by contacting Bryce's cell phone provider, AT&T, and they asked them to use their cell phone towers to ping Bryce's cell phone, basically triangulate where his phone is located. And once they did that and they had the actual location of his phone, the police and Bryce's parents were shocked at where it was. It was still in Buttonwillow, California. It was located just a couple of miles down the road from that rest stop where Christian had last seen Bryce. It was now in this parking lot of this hotel. And so the police around Buttonwillow were alerted to the fact that Bryce was a missing person and his phone was apparently in this parking lot. And so police were sent over there to see if Bryce was there too. And so the police arrive in this hotel parking lot, and sure enough, right in the middle is the 2003 Toyota Highlander with Bryce sitting behind the wheel, just sitting there staring out the front. And so an officer walks up and he knocks on the glass and Bryce rolls the window down. And the officer would say Bryce acted totally normally. He was friendly, he was lucid, he answered all their questions. When he got out of the car and they conducted field sobriety tests, he passed all of them. He even said, "Hey, if you want to search my car, go for it. I'm not doing anything out here." And so the officers did search his car, and there were no drugs, no alcohol. There was nothing suspicious in his car. And when they asked him, "What are you doing out here? Your parents are so concerned about you," Bryce would tell them that he was just sitting there. He didn't really have much of an answer, but he told them he planned on going home soon. And so one of the officers said to him, "Hey, you really need to call your mom. You need to call home and let them know that you're okay." And when they told him to do that, Bryce suddenly became really apprehensive, like he did not want to call home. And the officer picked up on it. And he said, "Hey, you gotta tell your family what's going on. They're the reason we're out here. They're concerned about you. So get out your phone and dial your mom." And so Bryce reluctantly pulled his phone out. He dialed his mother's number and he hit call. And the officer said, "Give me the phone." So Bryce hands over the phone. The officer picks it up. Karen answers the phone. And the officer tells her, "Hey, look, I'm with your son. He's just fine. He's sober. There's no drugs. There's no alcohol. I don't really know what he's doing, but he says he's going to go home pretty soon. But there's nothing wrong about the situation that I can tell. You need to talk to your son and figure out what's going on." And so he hands the phone over to Bryce. Bryce picks it up, and Karen says to him, "What's going on? Why are you still in Buttonwillow? It's been like 9 hours." And Bryce really didn't give her an answer to any of her questions. He just kind of deflected all of them and said he'd be home soon and don't worry about it. I'm just sitting here. There's nothing to worry about. And so finally, Karen just stopped trying to pull information out of her son. She could tell that, again, he was not going to tell her what's going on. And so she changed her tactic and she told her son very gently, "Bryce, please just go get a bite to eat, get a cup of coffee, kind of get yourself together here, and then please just drive home. It's only a few hours away. Drive home and we can talk about whatever problems you have, but you just gotta drive home. You gotta leave Buttonwillow, you gotta come home." And at this, Bryce says to his mom, "You know what? Okay, I'm sorry. I'll be home in a few hours." And so they hang up, and the officer, who was kind of eavesdropping intentionally on this conversation to make sure everything was fine, the officer was satisfied that everything was fine, that Bryce was sober, that he would head home. And so he says, "Okay, Bryce, best of luck, head home to your parents." And the officer left. An hour later, Karen received a call from...
Oh, this joint is irritating.
At this point, I am getting a
sure.
little like, okay, if he's 3 hours from...
3 hours ain't far.
Yeah, from home, his hometown. It's been 9 hours already. I would have just...
And then y'all get pinged that, hey, he's
still in the same area, just a different location, like in the parking lot of a hotel.
One of the parents stay at home, one of the parents go Mike, since you just half-ass even care, you sit
Not that he don't. It's just that every time someone calls, she's the one that's getting all the information.
No, I ain't saying that, but I'm just saying, Mike, you told him to give the key. You stay here. Or Mike, go get my son. And I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to keep in touch try to get in touch with both of y'all or something. Because they're going to communicate with me, and I'll be at home. But I'm going to send the dad. Yeah. The dad, I'm sure y'all got some more relatives. You take somebody with you. Yeah. That person get the Highlander. Yeah. And you drive, you come back.
Yeah, with your, I'm just like, what's wrong? Like,
because he's been, to be real, he's been so bizarre, he doesn't even need to be behind the wheel.
Yeah, like, I'm just like, I'm at this point, I'm like, okay, what's wrong? Like, something is going on. So, I'm like, anticipating, like, to see what it is.
Because even though he passing all the sobriety tests and everything, he's still, y'all know deep down he's not being normal.
No, himself.
So, y'all got to tell the police officers, hey, take the keys from him. He's not safe. We will come get him. That's what should have been said. You know what I'm saying? You could have talked to the police officer. Hey.
But then that wouldn't have stopped him from what you want somebody to stay there, like one of the officers to stay there.
No, the officers could have took him to the precinct, and we could have. Well, Karen and Mike could have went and got him. One of them got the Highlander and drove it back. Some stuff ain't just rocket. Yeah, it ain't rocket science. You gotta start.
I feel you.
I don't know. This one. I can see a sad ending coming, and I don't want it to. Yeah. But this one is pulling at me.
Yeah.
Head home to your parents, and the officer left. An hour later, Karen received a call from Christian, the car repairman who had checked on Bryce earlier, and he was actually returning one of Karen's calls. She'd called him sometime and he didn't get back to her, and so he was calling back, and he wanted to know, had Bryce made it home safely, because now it's been several hours from when he saw him last. And Karen would tell Christian, actually, no. After you left, my son did not leave Buttonwillow. He just went down the road to a parking lot, but, the police actually were just over there. They checked on him, and now I'm certain he's making his way home. Christian, who felt kind of invested in what was happening with Bryce, would say to Karen, hey, I don't mind driving over there and just confirming he has left this parking lot. But Karen would say, you know what? I'm confident he's on his way. Don't worry about it. You're too kind. So they hang up, and afterwards, Christian, even though he didn't have to, he decides, I'm going to go over there and make sure Bryce really has left. Because obviously something strange is going on here, and if there is some problem, maybe I can assist. And so he drives over to this hotel parking lot, and he really was not expecting to see Bryce there. But he pulls into the lot, and who's still in the middle of the lot but Bryce in his 2003 Toyota Highlander, just staring out the front of his car. And so this time, Christian pulls up right next to him, he parks the car, he walks right up to the window, and he's a little bit more forceful, friendly, but forceful with Bryce. He has him roll the window down, and Bryce obviously is very surprised to see Christian again. It's the third time he's seen this car repairman, and Christian says to him, hey, Bryce, you need to go home. Your parents are so worried about you. You need to leave right now. In fact, I'm going to watch you leave, and then I'm going to follow you onto the highway to make sure you're going home. And so Bryce was a little bit taken aback at how forceful he was being, but he would ultimately say, okay, yeah, all right, let's leave. And so Christian gets back in his car, and he goes right behind Bryce. And after a few seconds, Bryce pulls out of the lot, and he starts driving onto the road, and Christian follows him. And for the next hour, Christian would just remain behind Bryce and watch him drive towards Laguna Niguel. And while he was driving, Christian would actually call Karen and Mike back, and he would say to them that, your son had not left, but now he's good. He's on the highway. I'm right behind him. He'll be home soon. And so when Christian and Bryce made it to the last leg on the way to Laguna Niguel, Christian was confident that Bryce was fine and he would get home under his own steam. He wasn't driving erratically. Everything seemed normal. And so Christian pulled up alongside Bryce. He kind of waved to him to say, I'm leaving. And then he turned around and he headed back to Buttonwillow. Shortly after this, Karen called Bryce. Bryce picked up the phone. He's still driving. And Karen tells him, okay, you're going to give me landmarks of the things you're seeing as you're driving so that I know you're actually driving home. But Bryce refused to give them to her. He would say, I can't see anything out my window. It's too dark and I don't know where anything is. And so despite Karen and Mike getting so frustrated with him, saying, come on, tell us something, give us a sign, a road sign, anything, tell us anything around you, Bryce didn't give them any information. And And so finally, at about 2 a.m., when Bryce really should have been in Laguna Niguel or very close, he tells his parents over the phone that he's too tired to continue and he needs to pull over and take a nap. At first, his parents urged him to just keep on going. Come home. You can sleep as long as you want when you get here. But as they were saying it, they realized their son had been awake for nearly 24 hours at this point, and it's the middle of the night, so it does kind of make sense for him to pull over and take a nap. And so they say, okay, pull over, but as soon as you wake up, you need to call us so we know you're back on the road. So Bryce says, no problem, I'll do that. And they hang up. Several hours later, at 8 a.m., Karen and Mike have still not heard from their son, and they're telling themselves that he's probably just sleeping, he's totally exhausted, I'm sure he's fine. And then they hear their doorbell ring, and they're immediately so relieved because they're thinking, Bryce is here. He's finally arrived, thank goodness. They run to the door, they open it up, and it's not Bryce, it's a police officer. And the officer asks them, do you own a 2003 Toyota Highlander car? And so Mike and Karen's hearts sank and they say, yes, our son Bryce drives that car. The officer told them that the car had been located a few hours earlier at the bottom of a 25-foot cliff near Castaic Lake. Castaic Lake is about halfway between Buttonwillow and Laguna Niguel. They told the parents that there was no sign of a driver. Bryce was not there. They did find 2 small drops of blood inside the vehicle, but beyond that, there was no indication that Bryce had sustained life-threatening injuries from this crash. They said the back window of the vehicle had been broken from the inside, indicating that Bryce had escaped the wreck by punching out that window. His laptop and phone were still in the vehicle, and his wallet and duffel bag were outside the vehicle on the road and looked like they had been rummaged through before they were left there. After an examination of the damage to the car, the final tire tracks that led down to where it had been found, and traffic cameras in the area, it was concluded that Bryce had actually intentionally driven off this cliff, and he had actually hit the accelerator right before he went over the edge. After Mike and Karen headed out to the crash scene and had a chance to talk to some of the investigators that had been looking for Bryce, they informed the parents that most likely what they were looking at with this crash was a failed suicide attempt. But Mike and Karen, they just couldn't buy that. That was not like their son. And just 2 weeks earlier, when they dropped him off, he was happy, he was excited to be at school, he was talking about the future. He was not someone that was suicidal. And so what situation could he have possibly gotten himself into in just those 2 weeks that was so bad it would lead to something like this? It made investigators and the parents wonder, was Bryce hiding something? What did he mean when he said he had a lot to talk about? Did that have something to do with this thing he was hiding? A huge search was launched in and around the area where the car had been found, with hundreds of people on horseback, on ATV, on foot. There were helicopters in the air. They put divers in the lake. I mean, they looked everywhere for days and days and days. But nothing was found of Bryce. On the 9th day of the search, they brought a bloodhound out to see if it could pick up Bryce's scent, and sure enough, it did, right at the crash site. And the dog followed the scent all the way down to the lake. It walked around the lake to this bridge. It was actually a dam that went across the lake. It followed his scent right across the bridge to the other side, and then it kept on following it up this small access road until it reached a truck stop. And then his scent just stopped. And so police and the parents and everyone involved in this investigation was really surprised at this discovery. And so police got another bloodhound, a separate bloodhound. They brought it out to see if it could do the same thing, to prove that this really was his scent trail. And sure enough, the bloodhound picked up his scent. It went down to the lake, it went around to the bridge, went over, went to the truck stop, and then it just stopped. But after the scent trail was discovered, there was no other leads for anyone to follow. And so after 3 weeks of looking...
That is so crazy, bro. What? Now, no lie, I knew the car going over was 9 times out of 10 because he was tired. I was like, it's a possibility he was just too tired. But I think he showed a lot of signs. Let me go back. Let me get back.
Was discovered, there was no other leads for anyone to follow. And so after 3 weeks of looking everywhere for Bryce, the search was called off. Some say Bryce was suicidal. That's why he drove off the cliff. That was a suicide attempt. And despite the bloodhounds picking up his scent, Bryce was most likely in the lake somewhere. Others disagree and say Bryce is still alive, that after this crash, he gets out of the car and he walks down to the lake, he walks around to that bridge, he goes up to the truck stop, and then he hitches a ride with someone and vanishes, and now now he's living off the grid somewhere. And still others believe Bryce's drug and alcohol use caused a psychotic break, and that was what was causing all this strange behavior, and that was what led him to drive off the cliff. And perhaps when he landed, he sustained a vicious head wound that caused him to forget who he was, and so now he's just kind of wandering around somewhere, not knowing who he is or knowing that he's a missing person. As for his parents, they say he would never do this on purpose. He would never cause this much pain to the people that love him, and so he must have been a victim of foul play. But regardless of what you believe happened to Bryce, something happened to him, and it's probably connected to whatever it was he said he needed to talk to his mom about. That thing that he couldn't discuss on the phone that potentially he was trying to drive home to talk to his mom and dad in person about. But unless we find Bryce and he's still alive, it's unlikely we'll ever know what it was. Since August 30th, 2013, when Bryce went missing, no one has heard from him and no one has seen him. If you think you have information about Bryce Laspisa, please call this number now. Let them know what you know, because his parents, volunteers, the police, there's so many people still looking for him. And so any bit of information could crack this case. So please, if you have information, call this number below. So that's going to do it, guys. If you found the secret in today's episode.
Wow.
Let me say this. Well,
Okay, go ahead.
no, you can go.
I was going to say, I'm wondering if, like, all the stuff he needed to talk to his parents about was, like, letting them know, like, the activities he's been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Or was it, did he, like, get into, like, something with some people or something or whatever? Because what was the reason? You know, because at first I was thinking, or he was having those thoughts and wanted to talk to his parents about it. And he probably knew that he was just probably thinking, even like sitting in a car like for hours, probably maybe thinking of how he wanted to do it, or like I don't know what thoughts probably was going through his head, because he gave his earrings to his friend, he gave his Xbox to his friend, he broke up with his girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? He was like already like doing stuff before this led up to, you know, him driving a car off the cliff or whatever the case may be.
So my thing is, I think he had already came up with a decision that he wanted to.
Yeah, right.
So by giving his diamond earrings to Sean, giving Sean his Xbox and said, "Hey, you're somebody really important to me. I want you to have this." And that's kind of I want you to have something in remembrance of me. You can always look at these and be like, Sean gave me this. This is a piece of Sean that I have. He broke it off with his girlfriend, Kim, because he didn't want her to still have this void of their relationships. That, hey, I lost my boyfriend. He was like, hey, I want to like cut ties with you. I want you to be you. Have, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The drive home, to be real, I don't think he expected them to call his mom.
Yeah.
To be real, even the conversation with his mom, I don't even think he really had anything to tell her. I think he was just trying to get his mom off the phone. And
maybe so.
So also, I think the reason why he sat there and kind of dazed out, he was contemplating either how or do I really want to do this?
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because I've experienced those things. Yeah. I've sat there and like, I've had thoughts of, you know what I'm saying, of that, and you spaced out and think of how and what's next and what could I possibly do and how would I do it. So you have all these thoughts, and so you just spaced out, and somebody had to get your attention, and you click out of it. And you're normal. Yeah. But do I feel as though the alcohol or drugs have contributed? Possibly.
I was going to say that.
It's a possible that the drugs and alcohol usage, and we never know what's really going on, because school is starting back. You don't know like how the classes are affecting him right away. You don't know like what he might not have got accepted to that he wanted to get. We don't know those things.
Or you don't even know, like, even though you feel like, you know, oh, he was happy, he was himself, he was normal, whatever. Like he never showed.
People hide things.
People hide things. Like people go out, they hang around people all day, smile, carry on like you just like they're not the happiest person, but deep down inside people deal with like whatever, you know, inner things that they're dealing with. Like, so you can't always go based off of that. So he could have been dealing with stuff beforehand, before he went back to school, when he got to school, and then he was trying to suppress it, maybe with the drugs and alcohol and things like that. So you just never know. And it just took, it just got the best of him.
Because I'll say this, like, when it comes down to college is one of those times where you possibly deal with those type of thoughts a lot. And it's very, very heavy on you. But it's like you try to fight it out of it. So you might turn to things that might, you feel as though can suppress those thoughts.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just gets too much for you.
Yeah.
And my whole, like, and again, I got so frustrated with the parents because I was like, y'all not doing enough. To, like, me.
You wanted them to get it. You wanted them to get in
off
your car
your,
and go.
Get off your and go.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I get you.
Like, go.
Yeah.
At some point in this whole matter, y'all had opportunities to go.
Yeah.
Y'all had ample opportunities from when he first left. You should have.
At the rest stop.
No, I'm talking about before he even left from the rest stop.
Oh.
When Kim called you, you should have got up and went then. Because Sean had already called you. Now Kim calling you. Kim didn't want to give her the keys. That was your opportunity to go then. But I get it.
But this.
Hold up.
Go ahead.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
But I get it. Reason why, you know what I'm saying? Because that was the first sign. Second sign was when he was just sitting at the truck stop. That was another opportunity to go. Because he had to call for roadside assistance. Let's go make sure everything's okay in case he run out of gas again. Another time when y'all call Christian, he's back. He's still sitting there, and it's been hours since then. All right, something's going on.
Yeah.
Y'all you still haven't heard from him. All right, we get the file a missing person report. He's still there. Opportunity. Even when the police told y'all that it was he was still sitting there, go.
Yeah.
Even after that, Christian called you an hour later. Hey, he's still sitting here. Opportunity then.
Yeah.
Even when Christian was trailing him, you could have said, "Hey, Christian, we're gonna pick up where you leave off. So let's meet halfway. You follow him halfway. We're gonna meet you the other halfway, and we're gonna trail him." Because soon Christian did this to him, that was his opportunity to. All right, nobody's watching me now. I can do me. Even though I'm on the phone with mom, I tune you out. I'm gonna go do me. You know what I'm saying? Like it was ample opportunities to step in and possibly.
Yeah, I definitely feel you. I can't really remember what I was gonna say, but I definitely feel you. One of the things also, it's kind of like in my head, I'm like, you can only like be around them so much, like, because if somebody really want to do something, they're gonna find a way to do whatever it is that they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And the only other option was to see the signs. Okay, something's wrong. We need to get him, help or whatever the case may be. But as soon as we feel like he okay and send him on his way, maybe back to school after him being home, like if he did come back home and they got him some help, or just seeing after him, just like him being home to make sure he was good or talk to him or whatever the case may be. It's not to say that he wouldn't have still
but you gotta at least try.
Yeah, most definitely. And in their eyes, everybody's trying is different. Like, my trying is, everybody's trying is different. Everybody look at certain situations different or whatever the case may be. So, like, I don't want to, like, I get what you're saying, though. Like,
I'm not, basically what you're trying to say, you don't want to blame the parents for failed opportunities. And I'm not trying to either. But it's like, kind of, come on now. Like, let's step up and, like, make some action. Because even when, at 8 a.m., when you heard that knock on the door, I was like, police.
Yeah.
Police, because for one, that's y'all son.
Yeah.
He's coming home. 9 times out of 10, if he got a key to the house, he's not knocking on the door. He's just going to open the door with the key and come right in. And y'all would have woke up too.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, though. Like, yeah, I would have, if I, I can't say I wasn't in that situation, but I would feel like, get in my car and go, or whatever the case may be. But everybody's different in certain situations, so. And
to be honest, at the end, with the scent of the bloodhounds and things, with that, I believe he's still alive. Well, I think not.
At that-
I don't know if he's still alive to this day.
At that time.
At that time, I feel
Yeah.
like he was still alive. I don't think when he said something about the bridge, I said, "Oh." But when the sin went to the
and then stopped it.
he hitchhiked. He hitchhiked to ride somewhere else. We don't know. And he kind of vanished into.
And without having much information, but that and the scent ends there, all you have is to go off of like speculations, assumptions, because his parents think.
And it was 2013. Did the trust stop that he possibly went to? Did they have cameras? Because that would have been another thing I would have
like to see. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if that was a thing.
Yeah, 2013.
I mean, cameras would have been, but if they had cameras, would be the thing. I'm pretty sure they.
2013 ain't that far away, but we remember 2013.
Yeah.
Most places had cameras, security cameras. Most places.
Yeah.
Unless it's like one of them like Timbuktu trust stops where you like, dang, ain't nobody really out.
But yeah, the thing, what I was trying to say, the thing now, like with his parents, like it's kind of like they feel like maybe it was foul play, and you have some people that may feel like he sustained like injury to his head or something, and don't know that he is who he is, and that he's missing, and that this happened. Like he doesn't, he's just wandering the streets or whatever, and then you have what?
No.
What you about to say?
Nah, because I remember a situation like this too, where remember we came across this story where this he had autism. Mm-hmm. This kid wandered off out of his home. He was 17 at the time, and he wandered off. He was missing for some years. He wandered out the house, and he was found in Vegas. And it was hey, are you such and such? And he was like, yeah. He didn't know he was missing. He just like, you know what I'm saying, because of his condition. Yeah. Come found out. Hey, we've been looking for you for years, and he was able to be reunited. And that could be a situation like this. Yeah. So I do hope the family are able to get some answers.
When was this put out?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, because I was about to say, I'm wondering if, like, depending on when it was put out, uploaded, like, is there any updates to this day? Like, have they found out any new information?
I'm sure we can look it up.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to look it up.
But yeah, hopefully, I really hope they are able to get some type of answer. Yeah. Whether or not he is still alive or not, I just want the family to have some type of closure. Yeah. And be able to even if locate him, whether dead or alive, so you can still be able to know. Yeah. Because that's one of the scariest and craziest things to me is somebody passing and you're not able to locate them, and they cannot get the proper burial and rest. And so they just out there, and you don't know where they at. Yeah, and just that's sad though. That's but sad. Hopefully he is found alive. Though.
Yeah, most definitely.
That was a tragic situation.
Yeah, it was sad.
And a lot of things did show alarms and signs, and as like, to be real, we got to start picking up on other people's signs, and not just brush them off, Yeah, like, oh, it's nothing. They,
and I hate when people, they strong, whatever. Like when people say, because I've heard that a lot too, and I'm like,
because some of the strongest people go through the most
toughest,
pain, toughest
battles,
toughest battle,
like
and they just know how to hide them the best. Yeah. So, but with that being said, y'all spam us up. Please Let us know y'all thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, man. But as always, y'all know how it go. I do go by the name DJ New Kid. This is we are. We are.
Go and get it. Ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack and flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar. Let me watch out for my partners. Keep my money low, get my team strong. Let me run away from my problems.